Greetings. Namaste. Hello. Namaskaram. I'm going to talk about the traits of vegan souls, vegan starseeds, and about general ideas of how to find one's starseed or star origin. General in the sense that it doesn't concern only vegan starseeds. I'm just gonna say that I'm using my ideas, my feelings, my channeling, my knowledge, and also Joe Emiden's ideas. Quite a few of those, maybe most of those, come from her, and they've been circulating the net a lot. Many people reposted it on YouTube, but I only found it in text version or read by a robot, which I'm not a particular fan of, and many other people aren't. So I thought maybe it might be a good idea to have a human, I am human also, to read it like that, or talk about it like that in a human voice, not just titles and robots. Another source is Allura Sein, or Cein, C-E-I-N. I'm using a couple of her ideas. I'm expanding on some of those from her and from Joe. And I'm using other sources which I ain't gonna mention right now for some good reasons. I'm gonna give you 52 or about 52 characteristics in this video, and I'm gonna tell you how to get another 35 if you're interested. The number of the characteristics is necessarily approximate. Everybody's counting it differently, and some of the characteristics are intermingled or whatever. So let's see. The first, my impression is that the vegan main characteristic for me is like some kind of pure energy, very smooth, very strong, and that there is this purity. I know that purity is a funny term. What does it mean? But that's what it feels like to me. Maybe it would help to compare it, let's say, to Pleiadians, whom I perceive as beautiful, wise, gentle, powerful, shining, and very humorous. And maybe to Syrian energy, the Syrian starseeds, I feel some kind of, comparatively speaking, some kind of fighting energy, some kind of warrior energy, but also emotional, sensitive energy, gentle. But so compared to those and others, vegan I perceive as beautiful, pure, clear. Joe Emiden calls it smooth energy. I think maybe it has to do, who knows, with the age of the race. Seems like vegans are very old, and maybe the civilization, the intelligence, or the individualized intelligence in this race has matured. Now, other characteristics, vegan souls are independent, self-sufficient in some respects, or from a certain angle, proud, with strong will. They have a smooth, I already mentioned that, this smooth outer energy, and they evoke the sense of power and ability, capability. They tend to have a broad knowledge in a broad range of subjects or fields. They can be collectors of bits of information from the areas that interest them. This broadness of talents and abilities seems very characteristic for them. They are often very creative and often very able to combine this creative expression with intellectual expression, or understanding, or perception, or explanation, even teaching. Furthermore, they can be artists, designers, inventors, architects, or currently working with their creativity through new and developing technologies. And their methods of work with the technologies are very diverse, idiosyncratic, highly individual, because they are based mostly on feeling, on sensations, on inner understanding rather than intellectual understanding. For example, when somebody tells me how to find something, some address in a city, then telling me where to turn right and where to turn left, showing me the map, well, the map helps, but this telling me how to get there never works for me. I have to understand it myself. I sort of like sense where the place is and I find it. Maybe it's related to that. What's next? We or they are very good in launching projects, initiating projects, beginning to implement ideas, but not quite all that great in their finishing and in completing them. So that's why they may need lessons to help them learn self-discipline and strength of will to finish the projects, among other uses of strength of will and self-discipline. Or they surround themselves with those who support them and help them complete the projects and the implementation of the ideas. Those who come from Vega are travelers who are looking for diversity. I would call it colorfulness. I had that since childhood. Well, in the grey communist country, I mean, no wonder that it was so clearly seen. So anyway, looking for diversity, looking for challenges, and understanding of the many questions that they carry within. Some vegan starseeds get bored easily, and they tend to analyze, investigate, question, and doubt everything that they don't understand, what doesn't fit into their belief system, or whatever they don't feel good about, simply. Although they are quite willing to learn, change, and grow, vegan souls need to understand things on an inner level, inside, because that's how the inner opening comes about to implement changes. So, logically, this understanding is not of a practical or logical nature. It will be an inner understanding, more sensation, sense, feeling, knowing, or sensation that leads to knowing, rather than technical understanding. Most beings from Vega has a strong sense for responsibility, sometimes too strong. I'll talk about that later. I find that important. For a strong sense for caring and supporting. Some find fulfillment in working with the children, in teaching, or working with people who seem ill, who need care, help, or support. This excessive responsibility sometimes leads vegans to the need to remind themselves that it's not just important to teach others responsibility, but to be more responsible. Responsible is a big topic. Actually, I understand responsibility mostly as being able to respond to the current situation, but in the more commonly accepted meaning of the word responsibility, that's what I'm talking about here when I'm talking about the vegan traits. Blaming oneself actually would be the excessive responsibility of vegans. In this video, this is it for the vegan traits. I will talk about them more later. Now I want to talk about this general looking for your or our starseed origin. Hopefully some of it may be useful to you. Again, as with the characteristics and with these more general ideas, please use whatever resonates and drop immediately whatever doesn't. Negative resonance could also be useful. Sometimes it's not good to drop what resonates negatively, but sometimes it is. So, I'm presenting in some of my classes and videos. I'm talking about something that I know well, more completely. I'm talking about well-researched material, tested, proven by me and others, and procedures knowledge that I really know. This is a sort of a partial research, which I feel like sharing nevertheless, but it's not a complete thing. It can never be complete, but anyway, all this needs, if it resonates, whatever resonates from this, already you may be getting some clear info from it, that's great. Or it may need more research, and by research I mean mostly inner research, looking at the heart, feeling into it, not primarily further collecting of information from the so-called outer world or from the internet. You can also have a session with someone who can read your star origin. I can sometimes do that. Also, that may be a good combination with of the inner work and the outer work, not just reading stuff and listening to videos, but working with someone, and this help can, if it's done well from both sides, it can sometimes speed up this search for one's starseed origin very quickly. Sometimes it takes a while. But this contact with the star family, that is always there, but the contact, whether we're aware of it or not, but this contact with the starseed family, that's also available to the human consciousness, to the outer consciousness, so that we, for example, see these beings or hear them talk or can hug them or can visit a ship, whether physically with the physical body or through the astral. This can happen much faster with a session with someone who knows what they're doing, who's not a fraud, who's honest. More info. It can be that now you're Joe Newton from planet Earth, before you were Anas Kamat from the Pleiades, and before Uya Chiyana from Vega or from Venus. But sometimes it's a little bit different than this sort of straightforward explanation or understanding. One of the reasons for that is that most people on Earth seem to still think and perceive in the 3 or 4 dimensional manner, while the planets and worlds and realms that vibrate faster are more evolved, let's say, cleaner, purer, happier, more loving. There the connection, so to speak, with the other dimensions is more conscious. So how to understand one's history, one's origin, which has to do with other dimensions than just those 3 or 4. How to understand it just looking at it from the 3 or 4 dimensional point of view. We need to sort of get into the, or connect with, become aware of the other dimensions to understand that, because so it's necessary to recognize this empirically, not just be told. I mean, it's nice sometimes, and it's helpful to be told one's name or star origin, but it's in my view, it's much better to know this empirically, experientially, to see it, to see one's multi-dimensionality or super dimensional origin, so to speak. And then there are, so it's not always this straightforward, as it were. I mean, it is very straightforward, but in a different way than we are used to look at things on Earth. There are also these phenomena like braiding, talking about it, or probably will talk about it in another video, probably in my own encounters in that series. There are memories and that have been inherited, whether genetically or in other ways. There are shared memories, shared visions, etc. Individuality in its essence, I believe it to be an illusion, a hologram, so to speak, which is not to say that it's negative or positive, it's just nothing is evil, nor good in itself as such, so to speak. So, for example, I had or have memories from so many different places. Pleiades, Vega, Venus, many other realms, angelic and demonic. And so, for example, all these, most of the characteristics often connected with Pleiadians, I feel that they are my own. And the characteristics that are listed in this video, all but one or two, yeah, man, that's me. So does it mean that I was embodied in all those places? From one angle, for sure. But it can be viewed in different ways. It's not linear. And also the view of time is a little bit different from other dimensions, or let's say non-dimensional. Can I say that? Yeah. Non-dimensional point of view, yeah. And so research with your heart, with your feelings. It's not enough to read texts or view videos, not even thousands of videos. Some people seem to have addiction to videos these days, to YouTube. It seems to have replaced TV for some people, which is not always a good thing. I mean, who owns it, you know? So, inner work, unblocking, deprogramming, shadow work. That's not a thing that I can help with. That's my job. That's my work. Watch out for jumping to conclusions. Let the heart lead you always, or almost always, or more and more. Don't. I would say that's my idea. Don't seek for your home on another planet at any cost, just because you don't feel at home here on Gaia. You know, that sometimes can have different causes, different reasons. Some dissatisfaction with one's life doesn't always necessarily, probably usually it does, but not always, doesn't always mean that you're from another planet or another star. I mean, all of us are, in a way, but, and work easily, lightly, and joyously. That's very important, and know that you are, and always have been, and always will be, a free being, absolutely free, without fears. The fears are not yours. So, I'm also reminded about people reading horoscopes and recognizing themselves in all or several star signs. I think those horoscopes are usually dangerous, imperfect, but so let's not make the same mistake when we're looking for our star origin in these lists of characteristics. Follow your feelings. I mean, it's beautiful to find one's starseed origin. It's very, very, very beautiful, and practical also, very practical. It told me many things about me. It explained some of my traits, some of my tendencies, mental, physical, spiritual, which before I had no idea why I was like that, and this explained it, like even now this list of the vegan characteristics. Let's also be careful about over-identifying with some of the positive traits, so because for some of us, or maybe most of us, when we're reading or hearing about for example, the vegan characteristics such as responsibility, caring for others, creative abilities, we are pretty sure to want to believe that, of course, I am responsible, and I am caring, and I have creative abilities, I can work hard. That's also one of their characteristics. So let's watch out for that. Am I really responsible or hardworking? Or I'm talking about work in the sense something that I love to do, not this slave labor that most people on Earth still seem to be doing. I'm using the word work in this, let's say, holy sense. So am I really like that, or is it just a wishful thinking? I cannot stress this enough. Listen with your heart or soul or your knee or your belly or whatever you want, but not so much with your brain. And as Eckhart Tolle says, listen to the silences between the words. Many of the characteristics also are common to all people, to all humans. Compassion, that's a human trait. So it's not just about vegans. Helping others, it's not just about vegans. But there are some more specific characteristics, such as this attraction to healthcare or work with kids, with children, rather, I should say. That's more specific, and not everybody is like that. And another thing is, it doesn't really matter. I mean, in a sense, it matters very much. It's very important. But when it's not clear, it doesn't really matter if you're from Vega or not. If you feel responsible for others, if you identify with some of the characteristics, if they resonate, then this can be, you can work on that issue whether you're from Vega or from Jupiter or anywhere else. This responsibility thing could, for example, or any of the other characteristics that could be interesting for you in itself. It doesn't necessarily has to lead to recognizing what star system you're from. But of course, it's very beautiful to recognize it, to know it, and to know why am I the way I am, and why I remember landscapes and beings, technologies, societies, buildings, cities that nobody told me about on Earth, that I never seen here on any picture, in any film, in any video. I never read about it. It could be useful to know where these memories come from. And another positive note, it's also very simple. If you believe you're from Vega, then you're from Vega. If it's like an unfiltered or clean belief, resonance, why not? Doesn't really matter. You know, it's also it's a topic that's still not being talked about so much publicly, so to speak. So. And whatever place you see it, it doesn't have to be Pleiades or Vega or Andromeda or Venus. It can be something completely unknown. There are I mean, the universe is kind of big, and this can be a completely unknown place. I mean, unknown in the sense that you never heard about it. I know these siblings who in one session, separately, not knowing, they both painted the same or drew the same planet, and we couldn't find it. It looks like Mars in the future, red planet with the rings, 2 rings. I think it was 2 rings. So maybe it's a future Mars where the 2 moons have fallen apart and created the ring. Who knows? Seems that way. So whatever you see, don't take it too seriously, but also trust it. And it has to do with the lightness needed for this work that I was talking about. So, and the most important thing, in my view, is the recognition of your star origin, and even the contact, physical contact, or human consciousness, accessible contact with your starseed family, is that's all phenomenal. All created aspects of being. What is primary, I believe, I see it that way, is the recognition of the unnameable, the encounter with oneself, listening to the silence, knowing its eternal timeless essence. And here I think meditation is needed for everybody. True meditation, calm, the joyous dance of flowing, the determination to be happy, blissful, looking within rather than outside, and honesty to oneself especially. All these are words, of course. Everybody gets pointed to the essence with different words, with different procedures, different energies, different situations. Even though I do think that meditation is needed for everyone. And also the unblocking, the removing of the old programs, transcending, transmuting the old programs is what helps to approach this conscious encounter with the star family and with one's origins. Because when we see things through filters, through old programs, we cannot see them clearly. And there are other reasons why with the old programs we do not have access, or some of the old programs we do not have access to this information or to the contact with our friends, with our family. So, and then when we evolve, when our consciousness evolves, or our contact with our consciousness evolves, then these contacts with the star matters, with the starseed origin, with our star family, somehow sometimes come sort of automatically. So too much effort to meet your family, some kind of twisted, not very clean wanting to meet them is not always so good. It can lead us away from this true consciousness, from knowing oneself. So now I got more characteristics and more talk about Vega, also some things which you can find online, some things, well, some of them. I'm talking about astrophysical characteristics of Vega, which I find very interesting, and its connections, past, present, and future, to our sun, to Sol. It's just a little thing. Its axis, for example, Vega's axis is pointing at our sun. I find it nice, and there are other characteristics that are the same, or that are resonating with our sun, with the sun that we live with now. But thank you very much for listening. I think this is all that I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that if some of it is useful for you, that you will use it. And the other video will be, I'm gonna charge maybe about $1 or €1. This will be in the titles of this video or in the description on the YouTube page. So thank you very much for listening, and namaskar.